rolling.
Okay, so I'm just gonna introduce myself for a minute. I'm Lili Todd, and I go to Art Center in Pasadena. I'm in my second year, and I'm studying illustration design, but I've been doing ceramics for like, I think 6 or 7 years now, at Creative Arts Group in Sierra Madre, where I live, right down the street from my house. And yeah, so I've been doing that, and I mostly do hand-built work. I tried the wheel, but it was my thing, so I do a lot of hand building. And then today we're going to be hand building some creatures based on the artist Godeline de Rosemel. She's a French artist who lives here. She's lived here for a long time. This is one of her pieces I brought in. They're really beautiful and like simplistic. And sometimes, as you see in the photos, she'll pair them with like trees or caves and like create a little scene. I think before she got into clay, she did children's illustrations. And so there's a little bit of that. And then she also always usually pairs her animals with some nature pieces, like twigs or a rock on their head, a piece of bark, which is really elegant and nice. Those are super cute. Yeah, so we're gonna be using Activia Plus air dry clay, which you can get at Blick. And I like this clay the best because it feels the most like real ceramic clay to me when working with it. But then again, there is a lot of differences, which we'll discover as we're dealing with this. But yeah, and you've gotta, you know, kind of constantly wet it because it dries by the air. But you don't have to rush because it does take like about 24 hours or more for it to completely dry. So you don't have to worry too much. But if you guys want to come over here, I'm gonna like do a demo of how to make these according to like the steps I put in this pamphlet sheet. And then you guys can always take this home and use it. And also we have 2 color clay, so you could pick whichever one you want. I mean, we're gonna be painting them in the end, but the terracotta is really pretty, so you could always have it show through or whatever you like. So first I'm gonna just build the general body. We also, I have on this page, which I didn't talk about, was if you'd like to sketch your idea first, I think that's a good idea. And if you need some inspiration, I went about it thinking about 2 animals I liked and how can I simplify the features of these animals as much as I can. You know, like her piece kind of looks like a bird because of the nose, but then it has arms and 4 legs, so you know, she got creative with it. But it's simple. You don't need that much information to know that this is a bird. You don't even need wings, you know, just the beak. So I thought of, this is what I made. I thought of a Frenchie because I have one, and I love Frenchies, and a hippo because I think Frenchies kind of look like hippos. So I definitely wanted to include the ears of the dog because I thought that's a defining feature. That's all you need to see to know that it's a Frenchie. And then I wanted a really rounded body. And this was my sketch. And you know, it turned out kind of different, but that's okay. This one's a little chubbier. But I'll try again right now to make one. And then you also want to be thinking about stability when you're sketching your idea. Like, this creature has 4 legs, even though, you know, she might have only thought of putting 2, but she wanted that stability, which is really important. So I would recommend, even if you're doing something vertical like this, to put forelegs or pretty like large feet or something to keep it stable. Okay. So I'm gonna work on.
Is that painted?
This is glazed. So this is, her work is actually fired in a kiln. I think at pretty high temperatures. So we're not gonna do glazing. I know it's really pretty, but yeah, the next best thing is the air dry. And then we're gonna have next week we're gonna paint these, and we're gonna be looking at another artist, a painter, for those, and like talk about limited color palettes and how to like make a good color palette, like what makes a good color palette. So we will like have fun with the colors of these guys, but you don't need to have any ideas of that yet. Okay, so first I'm just making the general body, and then the tools we're going to use are pretty simple. I don't like to use a lot of tools. This is my favorite tool for smoothing things. You can also like dip it in the water and smooth things with that. And this is the needle tool. Some of you have kind of more knives or something, but this is to just cut shapes. And then this tool I'm gonna use to carve out the tummy of this guy. The reason I'm doing this is because it'll just take days for this clay to dry if it's solid. Hers are solid. And you know, she could do that because she's putting it in a kiln. But even with ceramics, there is, you have to worry a little bit about the thickness because things can explode in the kiln if they're too thick. So that's something we don't have to worry about, is explosions. Yeah, so I'm gonna carve this, but I'm gonna make sure the walls aren't too thin. Like, I think I wanna keep the walls like the thickness of my thumb or slightly smaller than that, but not too thin, or else it's just hard to handle the body of your creature. And it's easy to like make dents in it that are hard to fix. And then, so your extra clay, you want to make sure to just keep it in the bag at all times, and you can even like squirt it a few times if you need. I mean, it's pretty fresh right now, but you'll notice that it will dry, kind of start to dry quickly, and the like consistency of the clay will change, and you might get like small tiny cracks on the surface. But don't worry too much about the cracks, because you can fix them easily by just adding more clay on top of them, or if the clay is still moist, you can just smudge them over with one of these. Okay, so now I have this, and next, so I've hollowed that out, and then funny enough, I'm gonna just patch over the hole because normally you couldn't do that in normal ceramics because you would have created a pocket of air and then it would explode. Some mean high schoolers do that on purpose to ruin other people's art. So we don't have that problem, so we can actually just purposely create this air bubble. Okay, so that fits. And then when attaching things, you want to make sure that you score and slip. And that means you need to scrape where you're going to be attaching. I have this tool, which I have a few of these here. We didn't have enough for everyone, but we can share. And it's just a needle tool that has a lot of little needles on it. You can do it with this, fine. That's fine too. But this is just like double fast. So, and then I'm gonna do the same on my little patch. And you know, this doesn't have to be pretty because we're gonna cover that up. And then the slip part is adding water. So you don't want to go like too crazy with the water, but you definitely need some water on there. You're trying to get some like rehydrated clay there. Okay, so then I'm gonna squish this on, and then I'll use my wooden tool to smooth over these edges. And you really want to make it seamless, because with this clay, that will become a crack if you leave it slightly open. So, and then, you know, don't feel nervous about applying some pressure like with the tool, because the pressure helps prevent the cracks as well. And that's another reason to have the walls of the animal kind of thicker. Okay, I'm doing it kind of quickly just so we can make our own little potato dog I'm making. Oh, sorry. Okay. You can also like even roll it a little bit at this point to smooth over things, but don't worry if it's rough right now, because in the end you can just spend time smoothing it out. Okay, so then I'm gonna set this aside, and to keep it moist, I'm putting it in my bag. Now I'm gonna work on the legs, which I think is kind of the tricky part, but it's not too bad. It's just the legs can get cracks around them. It's the good thing about this clay though is that, like, and that's different from ceramics, is like you can patch it up after it's dry by just adding more clay on top, smoothing it in, and then just letting that dry, and it's totally fine. So but as they're drying, I'm gonna watch out and watch them and see, because you guys won't be here. So okay, so I made a coil, and I'm gonna have 4 legs, so I'm gonna cut just 4 equal legs here. Oh yeah, I always forget to say, okay, I should have done this when the clay was not hollowed out, but you know, it works now too. You want to try and like smush the ears out, and if you want a tail or a beak, you're gonna want to like pull that out from the body clay and not attach it. You want to attach as little as possible, and you want the body to be, like, the main creature to be one piece of clay as much as possible. So that, you know, I just pinched out some little ears. I can use some water to smooth that. If you want to attach them, you can too. You just have to make sure you really smooth it in. So when you're like drawing your design, that's another thing to think about, is like, okay, how much of this can I simplify and pull out from the main piece of clay instead of attaching. So, okay, so here's the ears now. Okay, back to the legs. I'm rounding out the little toes, like that. And then we're gonna do like we did with the patch. Okay, so I'm just stamping these. I'm gonna use my towel to kind of prop up this guy, because now that he is hollow and I'm gonna be like pushing down on him, this is a good way to not have like the ears get smashed or something. So I'm gonna attach these just like I did the patch. I'm gonna see where I want it, score on this side, and then add some water with my finger. Sometimes people also make an actual like slip that is just watered down clay that they apply. And you can do that with this clay. I tested it and it works. This is just water added and mixed up. But even in hand building regular ceramics, I've always just dabbed some water on, and it's been pretty fine. So this part is tricky because he is kind of like a balloon right now. It's like he has air inside and you can feel it, and so it's not like a super solid like surface you're pressing on. You just have to be kind of delicate. And then what helps is I will roll some really thin coils, and so when I smeared this down, you know, it's kind of, that's clearly not going to, it's going like this, so it's clearly not gonna be very stable. So I'm gonna wrap a coil around there like that, and then smooth that in too. So it's kind of, it's a little time consuming, the legs. But you can, I mean, you don't have to do your legs this way. You can pull them out from the body too, or another creative way you find. And so, but yeah, this is my way of attaching things. You want to smooth it all in, so you want it to be seamless. And then also, like, you can even have your creature dry like a little bit like this upside down, so its legs aren't having the whole pressure of the body on it. I don't know if I should attach every leg. It might take a while. You think I should just fast forward? Okay, so say I've attached all the legs correctly and not like this. Then, you know, kind of have it stand so that it's, you know, thump it down a few times so you know its feet are flat and it's gonna stand. And then I just added some simple details. You can do what you want, but I was just inspired by her. She just simply has some dots for eyes. In some of her creatures, she has a little mouth like that. And I think that's pretty cute, the simple. And then, okay, the last thing is we have a bunch of sticks over here and rocks. The rocks I wouldn't attach at this phase, but the sticks you can just attach, and then when we come back to it on the painting day, we can always secure it more with glue, or if you wanted to put rocks, you can hot glue a rock on and then paint it. So that's the little guy.
That's very sweet.
Yeah. Okay, so there's clay at everyone's station, and feel free to swap bags depending on what color you'd like. And I will, you know, walk around and help everyone. So we can just start with coming up with some ideas. If you want to look at animal references on your phone too, you can. And just think about like what features you want to keep from that animal. I guess some just important things to remember is like, if like about fragile points, like a long tail might be a fragile potential breaking point. And I've illustrated it here, but one thing you can do is kind of have the tail wrapped up around and reattached in 2 points to the animal, or just have a shorter tail. I mean, you're free to, you can risk it with a long tail, but it's just, Like this one has a tail, but I made it just as thick as the body, so you know that's not gonna break off.
That's a really cool one too.
Yeah.
They all look really fun.
Yeah, I tried a lot of different things. So this one actually has a tin foil skeleton inside, but I chose not to do that for the final because you can't tell anymore, but it cracked all over. And then which was, you know, just looked very sad, but then it wasn't too hard to fix because it's air dry clay, so I just smudged some more clay in. So I mean, definitely if you want to experiment at home with doing skeleton interiors, like this one has like wrapping tissue in it, because that can sometimes like help with making a more complex body form, but there's just a lot of potential for cracking. And then some of these I tried wire in the legs, which was nice to build around, but it sometimes cracks. So yeah, I did a lot of experiments. And the best way is just to have just the clay. So yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to put some music on. Okay, yes, I can film this for the website. But okay, so this is day 2 of our clay class, and I was just going to talk a little bit about color, like going back to the basics a little bit, a refresher. So I was looking at the artist Abel Macias, who lives here in Los Angeles. He's mostly a painter, but he actually does sculptures that are not too different from these, which he'll do like foam rock shapes that he paints like bright pink, and then he'll use sticks as legs and makes like these kind of creatures. So he does some sculpture, and then he does some like art direction, and he does a lot of murals recently, but his work is really beautiful and, you know, kind of abstract, but a lot of it resembles like a desert landscape or just landscapes in general. And he has a really strong sense of color. So I made this little chart on the first page just showing how I was looking at these different images he made and pulling color from them and kind of dissecting the color palettes he was using. And some like go-to basic, you know, color combinations you can do is the complementary colors, which is the colors that are directly opposite each other on the color wheel. Analogous is like the 3 colors next to each other anywhere on the color wheel. Triadic is, you can see on my little diagram, they're kind of in a equal triangular formation away from each other. And then monochromatic is you just pick one color and you add black and you add white to create a scale of that color. And then just some tips for creating a good palette. It's good, so this is where we're talking about like limited color palettes. I mean, you don't have to do a limited color palette for this if you don't want to, but it's a really good idea because it kind of, he always uses limited color palettes, and it just shows that you have like a really strong sense of color. It always comes out really bold and nice.
What did you say he always uses what?
A limited color palette. And yeah, they look very sophisticated when you use a limited color palette. So my first advice would be to stick to a small amount of colors, like 6 at the most, but I think 3 or 4 is a good number for a palette. And then you want to pick a light, medium, and dark color. So, you know, if you're doing this first palette, the complementary, my yellow is going to be my lightest color, and then, you know, maybe I'm going to pick like a violet for the middle and like a really dark blue or something. And you don't have to use colors straight out of the tube. It's nice to like mix your own greens or blues because you get a more sophisticated color and then like have that as part of your palette. And something I would suggest is looking at photos that you took or paintings from this artist or other artists you like, and like figuring out what colors you can take from there and then kind of creating your own palette from it. I know that Pantone even has like an app now where you can like point your camera at things and it creates a color palette from those photos, which is really neat. So these are some examples. This one I used the analogous color palette from the first one, the second image, and I kind of mimic his rocks with the dots on it as well. You don't have to work abstractly. I'm just doing that based off this artist. And then this one was a triadic color scheme, which is basically the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, but by adding white and black to them, I got like a large range of colors and pinks. So for painting our guys, we're going to first put gesso, and everyone has some gesso at their table, just so that you have a base of white and then your colors will pop more. But if you want some of your like clay to show through, because some of you did terracotta, then you don't have to gesso at all where you're putting the paint down. And then, yeah, make your palettes. You can use these plates as palettes. And, you know, go ahead and paint them. And then we're going to seal them with the Mod Podge on everyone's table. And it's like a really nice matte finish. And then you can come over here and pick some nature bits to glue on. And we have a hot glue in that station and all the supplies. So I think that's it.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, and I have these are fun color swatches if you want to test out a color palette or use these as inspiration. You know, group some together and see what's nice. It's kind of just fun to play with these, so feel free to play with these.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Crafting. Should I do that, or should you want to start another video?
No, talk about crafting.
Okay. I think all of yours are pretty good. But if you want to smooth out the surface even of your animals or fix any cracks, I have this slip. And all you need to do is, I'm going to use this guy as an example who's very badly cracked. You just put some of the slip and rub it into the crack. And then, actually I'm gonna have to go over to the hair dryer, which is, okay, so rub that in with the tool and my finger. And then I will just blow dry it quickly. It dries really fast. So that happens really fast. And then I would actually sand it to kind of smooth out the surface. And you could do this even if you don't have any cracks, if you just want to just kind of smooth out your creature. And depending on how big the crack is, you can like reapply the slip. But that's really all it needs. And then you have a smooth surface to work off of. And I have some sandpaper here for anyone that needs that. So yeah. Okay.